people don't like to talk about this when they talk about Pierre Trudeau, but he was probably the most important propaganda asset for the Chinese Communist Party during the Maoist period.
Got an interesting one for you here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today's top story here. We've got Jordan Peterson has an interview with a guy who's talking about Dominic Barton and how he spent so much time in China and how he influenced Justin Trudeau on immigration. The whole interview is very interesting. So let's jump into this. This is Terry Glavin. He's a journalist, extensive works covering topics ranging from natural history and anthropology to global politics, contributed to various publications, including Vancouver Sun, Globe and Mail, Georgia Straight, columnist for the Ottawa Citizen, he has several books. Jordan Peterson interviews him and he talks about Justin Trudeau and Dominic Barton. Remember Dominic Barton? This is a guy, McKinsey, $220 million that Trudeau paid to that company for consulting. Dominic Barton is a guy who spent half his life in China. As you'll hear from him, Dominic Barton brought that idea over to Trudeau, and then Trudeau put in the Century Initiative to have 100 million people in Canada by 2100. And that's what we have here today. Ridiculous amounts of immigration that's breaking our country, essentially brought to Trudeau by one man, Dominic Barton, who Trudeau trusts, but there's most definitely some sort of sinister agenda to this. It's not just patriotism.
You know, Dominic Barton, who ended up being our ambassador to China, the guy who came from China's McKinsey and Associates, and who crafted Trudeau's campaign material at the very, very, very beginning of his rise to politics, says, yeah, we should actually have about 500,000 people coming into Canada every year. We should aim for 100 million. We should at least double our population, in the next generation or two.
Well, we've had more than half a million coming in.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, by a substantial number.
We don't know how many people live in this country, Jordan. We know from a recent census it's about 41 million. But on top of that, we have, well, for instance, over the next 12 months, 5 million people who live in Canada on various kinds of temporary permits and so on.
That's 1/8 of the population.
Within the next 12 months, those permits expire. Then there's another between 50 and 500,000, according to the official guess of the Immigration and Refugees and Citizenship Department, who are what they call out-of-contract workers, which are undocumented workers. Now, for Americans to hear these numbers, America's 10 times as many people, it's 10 times as populous. So, just do the math, right? Yeah. If there's 5 million, if there are 50 million American or people living in the United States whose temporary permits expire within the next 12 months, and who have all given every impression that they do not intend to leave.
Yes, why would they leave?
So Pierre Poilievre's coming along, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Pierre Poilievre, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about language. And is this liberal or, what the hell? Pierre Poilievre, when he talks about housing, when he talks about employment, when he talks about access to healthcare, when he talks about wages, he's Bernie Sanders. The Americans have to understand this. Try to imagine Bernie Sanders. I mean, and also the trade union vote has gone to conservatives. Yeah. Poilievre. This has never happened before.
Yeah.
The working class vote has gone to Pierre Poilievre.
I mean, everyone's going to Pierre Poilievre because he's the only common sense choice. But I agree with basically everything he's put out. I can't say disagree with anything he's put out, actually. We'll see once he puts out his full campaign platform. But either way, that's what politics is. You pick the politician who you're most aligned with. And Poilievre is the only one that actually wants to bring Canada back to what it was and do what's best for the people. Trudeau's doing what's best for himself and his rich friends.
I think we've got about a year or two before everything starts to come unglued. And I'm very worried about this. I've always been an optimist. I've been an inveterate optimist.
So this is basically an idea that Poilievre gets in, he tries to fix things, but things are so broken because of Trudeau. Poilievre will get in and see it's so much worse than we even know. I mean, look what we have with the budget. We thought 40 billion was the guardrail deficit, and it turns out to be 62 billion. Like, that's just something that they had to be transparent about. Think of what they're not being transparent about. The fact he can't fix it, and then people start revolting because Poilievre isn't fixing Trudeau's mess. But Trudeau's mess was so bad that it's so hard to fix this. I think Poilievre's going to get in there. It's going to be a disaster to the point where he's like, okay, we're cutting the dental program, we're cutting the housing accelerator, and he's already said that, cut the housing accelerator, and he's already talked about obviously axing carbon tax, cutting GST on new homes, but he'll cut the dental program, he'll cut all these things because it's the only way possible to get our country back. That's probably what's going to happen. It's probably going to be much worse than we realize.
But I actually haven't seen in Poilievre a degree of sophistication in comprehending the nature and the scope of what he's going to be facing when he. Well,
I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can comprehend it. I mean, I regard myself as a moderately sophisticated political observer, and you've made me more pessimistic today.
Sorry.
Well, I was already very concerned about the state of Canada because I think that. Well, I'll give you an example, and you probably know this already, but before Justin took office, GDP per capita in Canada was approximately at parity with the US. Okay, now our richest province, Ontario, the inhabitants of our richest province by per capita GDP are poorer than the average inhabitant of Mississippi.
I thought it was Alabama. Is it Mississippi? Same thing.
Last thing the people in our richest province are poorer than the people in the U.S.
Yes.
Poorest state,
yep.
Right?
Just think about that, underscore that. People in our richest province are poorer than the people in the poorest state in America. And there's 50 states.
That's a 9-year decline. It's an absolute bloody catastrophe. And we know Trudeau just announced a $62 billion deficit. Yesterday, which was $22 billion higher than the pessimistic estimate that his finance minister had come up with a few months ago. Whatever state we think the country is in is nowhere near as grim as the state the country's actually in. And what my fear for Poilievre is that he's going to take power in October, because I think Trudeau will hang on till then, but maybe not. We'll see.
He doesn't have a chance to hang on unless he prorogues until October. And the only reason he would do that is so his son can vote for him in an election. A narcissistic move, selfishly driven just to have his child vote for him. There's no other, the Liberals would absolutely revolt if the government's not running. Trudeau's proroguing for like 8 or 9 months. Party would fall into disarray. There'd be just crazy broadcasts going on. I don't think it'll happen. I think we're going to get an election here come April. By April, there should be an election. We'll see what happens. Maybe Trudeau pulls a rabbit out of his hat and pulls some Wartime Measures Act and enlists all of us into go fight for Ukraine or something.
Things will be revealed to be demonstrably worse than they are on multiple dimensions. You've outlined like 6 in our discussion today. He will be saddled with the blame. And so he'll have a 4-year term while he muddles through the absolute bloody nightmare that Trudeau has left. And then the Liberals are connive their way back into power.
No, that's never going to happen.
It seems very much that's what Trudeau has planned, though. He's been stacking the deck with the Senate for so long. What was the number? Like 95 of 108 or whatever it is. The majority is like 86% of the Senate is stacked with Trudeau's independent senators, which are all Liberals. They're working as a party to have dominance, to take back power when they can. And you got to remember too, the Senate, these people are in there forever. A lot of them, they're in their 70s. If a senator is appointed now, they're likely in there for a couple decades.
Well, so you're less pessimistic on that.
Yeah,
me,
I mean, well, the Liberals
so.
might, but it might be some iteration of a Liberal Party that can, older Canadians are more familiar with.
Yes, I think the probability, like the most likely outcome in an October election in 2025 is that the Liberals are essentially decimated.
Oh, their history. If you can imagine a kind of, a TikTok account run by a 19-year-old college girl in charge of a G7 country. That's basically
14-year-old.
Okay. But anyway, so he emerges. How does he...
So for anyone who didn't see the Peterson episode, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 ago, he basically said he diagnosed Justin Trudeau as having the emotional maturity of a 14-year-old.
Present himself to the Liberal Party as a worthwhile leader of the party. And for this, he turned to McKinsey and Associates.
Consulting firm, major
massive
consulting
global
firm.
Consulting firm. the apologist for dictators everywhere. I don't know how many billions of dollars they've had to pay out in lawsuits for boosting OxyContin sales in the United States. A fellow by the name of Dominic Barton, who happened to be a Canadian who spent half his life in China as the head of McKinsey.
Dominic Barton, we've heard this guy's name before, Justin Trudeau's buddy. Remember this video from the University of Waterloo?
Hello, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Congratulations to all today's graduates, and thank you for coming together for the 117th convocation of the University of Waterloo. I'm honored to congratulate Dominic Barton on becoming the university's 11th Chancellor. Dom, you've done a tremendous amount to make life better for people across
Dom? He claims he's not his friend, but he calls him Dom.
our country. You've been a dedicated voice for Canadians, and your leadership has been vital in growing an economy that benefits everyone. The university.
Oh, it benefits me so well. Was it $220 million Trudeau gave of our tax dollars to McKinsey for consulting?
University of Waterloo is the perfect place to continue that work. You're on the cutting edge of just about everything, building bridges.
This is so cheesy. Remember when Dominic Barton was in committee and questioned about being friends with Justin Trudeau?
Thank you, Mr. Barton, for being here today. Would you consider yourself a friend of the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau?
I consider myself having, I'm not a friend. I have a professional relationship.
When did you first meet?
Excuse me, can I finish, Mr. Chair?
Oh, easy there, Stalin. No, I'm not a friend of, no, I don't know anything. Who's that? Who's Justin Trudeau? I don't know.
Sure, briefly.
I respect him. I think he respects me. I don't have his personal phone number, and I haven't been in a room alone with him.
Okay.
Nobody asked if you'd been in a room alone with him. This guy's such a liar.
Never been in a room alone with him.
Yeah.
All right. When did you first meet the Prime Minister? And when I'm referring to the Prime Minister, I'm always referring to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. When did you first meet him?
I think I met him in 2013, when I was actually going up to meet.
Before he was elected.
Before he was, going up, you know where I was going is to see Mr. Flaherty.
This sounds like a hocus pocus story. Look at this guy's face, just scrambling to make up some story.
And I was in the elevator, and someone introduced him to me and said, "This is Justin Trudeau." I didn't know what he looked like or where he was. So I was going.
Yeah, he didn't know who Justin Trudeau was. No, not at all. This guy's old enough to be the same age range as his dad. He doesn't know who Justin Trudeau. There was a poll that showed that like 98% of Canadians know who Justin Trudeau is. This guy's so full of crap.
Going to see Minister Flaherty.
Okay. Did you ever meet with the Prime Minister or members of his staff while he was leader of the Liberal Party before the 2015 election outside of that meeting? Okay. When did you first communicate with Justin Trudeau after he was elected Prime Minister?
It was in Davos when I was
I was at the WF. This guy is just as slimy, maybe even more slimier than Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau brought him in, and essentially to add gravitas to his candidacy for the Liberal Party.
Under whose advisement did he bring in McKinsey? Do you know? Like, was that his idea? I don't imagine.
Well, it's
part
small
of the cabal
town. It
around
is a small town. It is a small town.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Ottawa.
He was essentially a function of the Canada-China Business Council. This is a really important thing for people to understand. His entire campaign was built around the proposition, and this is how he sort of lent gravitas to himself, that the key to the future is China. Canada's future is China.
Are we surprised there's so much foreign interference coming from China? It's almost like China was helping Justin Trudeau.
The middle-class prosperity is all about China, China, China. And this immediately, he immediately accrued to himself a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of help. The Desmarais Corporation, the Power Corporation in Montreal, those whole circles. And of course, his father, people don't like to talk about this when they talk about Pierre Trudeau, but he was probably the most important propaganda asset for the Chinese Communist Party during the Maoist period in the English-speaking world.
That's nothing. It's just the Chinese communists.
Yeah.
What they kill, 100 million people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and Trudeau would trade in this and say, well, they know me in China, my family name. And a lot of that was sort of glossed over. People didn't notice what was going on.
Well, people were optimistic
because he was so glamorous, right?
We were also optimistic, I think, in the West for a reasonable amount of time that if China integrated itself into the Western economy, that they would liberalize across time.
Some of us were.
it was a case you could put forward if you were aware with all due caution of the potential risks.
Anybody who's followed Canadian politics at all in the last 5 years will be aware of the scandals associated with the intimacies between the Trudeau Liberals and the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party and the organization department of the Politburo of the Chinese Communist Party, the manipulation and monkey wrenching of elections in 2019 and 2021.
Yeah, we still don't know the full extent of
Yeah, the whole commission is yet to report.
Name the traitors. I mean, David Eby, too, in BC here, advisor directly connected to one of those Chinese organizations, too.
Right, and there's background rumors about a number of Liberal MPs being unduly influenced on the financial side.
More than background rumors. One of the things that's difficult for people to grasp is that, a lot of people ask me, my goodness, the Chinese must have something on Justin Trudeau. Mm-hmm. Some compromise. Mm-hmm. He doesn't see anything wrong with it. He doesn't. Yes, well, that was
evident in
if you take all the crazy thing, well, I don't want some of the things that the Democrats are saying about Trump and Russia were not crazy, but if you take all the extreme accusations that the Democrats are making about Trump's associations with the Kremlin in the 2015 election, multiply that by 10, and you have in the real world Justin Trudeau's collusions and complicity with the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party.
Wow, that's quite the statement there. 10x. I think he's right. I think there's deep ties there in China. I mean, Trudeau has come out and said how much he admires the basic Chinese communist dictatorship.
He was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
Trudeau's rivals pound.
This is ridiculous.
In the open, by the way. And this is the thing. To understand Justin Trudeau, you have to understand he sees nothing wrong with this. On the weekend of May 29th, 2021, when Justin Trudeau lowered the flag on Parliament Hill, and on the Monday ordered the flag lowered on all federal buildings across the country, owing to a report out of Kamloops about the discovery of a mass grave. Mm-hmm. And on the Tuesday, the chief of the Kamloops First Nation said, well, actually, we didn't say mass grave. But the flag stayed down. The flags were at half-mast.
For how long? Like 6 months?
7 months, I think it was.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And the people God bless them, who managed to get them back up again with the Mohawks. Thank God for the Mohawks.
Oh, I didn't know that twist on the story.
Yeah, they said, look, we have a lot of people who are veterans, and we lower our flags on the 11th of November, and also on Aboriginal Veterans Day. So how the hell are we going to lower the flags if they're already lowered? Do something about it.
So there you have it. According to Glavin here, this is what spurred on Trudeau to get the idea to enact essentially this century initiative that has decimated our country with way too much immigration. Does Trudeau have shares in a samosa factory? Is he making money off of the select country of people he's bringing in? How much money has his real estate development company gone up since he's brought in so many people from India? This should be public knowledge, as this affects all of us. How long can the man cling on to power?